Here we have a news source, and I use air quotes very vehemently, telling so many people, and so many people do listen to Fox News. And so now they're getting this another image of, okay, there was protesting and it turned into rioting and looting, which is absolutely wrong.
Yeah, but it fits the narrative that the people who are paying attention to that news source want to hear. They're not, most of them, and this is how newspapers kind of work, or news works. Most people never notice the retraction. If there is a retraction, most people, and I'm not just saying Fox News, but they do know how this works. Fox News definitely knows how this works. They know that most people will never see the retraction in this case. So they'll publish something. Then when they retract it later, it doesn't matter because 75% of the people who were buying into it to begin with will continue to buy into it because they don't even know that the retraction happened.
And again, hijacking the story of what the protesters were actually doing and twisting it and saying, oh, riots are bad and you should not be protesting. Absolutely. I mean, that was intentional, on purpose. I do not understand how someone can justify that.
It doesn't matter if it was on purpose either. Here's the thing. You are a supposed news outlet. For your answer to be, sorry, we thought it was from now, means you didn't do your job, period. You did not run down the story and make sure it was credible. If I just email you some photos, you're going to post them? That seems ridiculous. That's not journalism. End of story. It's just not journalism. That's an op-ed, and it's not even a good one.
Mm-hmm. Disgusting. And that's, again, socially acceptable for Fox News to be doing that.
Well, of course, because anyone who wants to say, well, they eventually retracted it. Yeah, I mean, they got their point across, though, before they retracted it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Their point was made very clearly.
So we have, I'm in Long Island. So in New York, we've seen riots in Manhattan, right? And I mean, I sent you pictures of places being boarded up. And I said on Mickey's Marbles, it's been really hard actually going into work between COVID and these riots and just the pain my city is in general. And but in Long Island, we've had quite a few protests. Every day there's a couple in different towns. For the most part, I would say they've been peaceful, period. End of story. I don't even know why I said for the most part. However, the one instance where it was not exactly peaceful, it wasn't the protesters that were doing anything wrong. It was counter-protesters that were physically intimidating the marchers. And the police were helping them. The police were allowing them to do that because they didn't want people marching down Hempstead Turnpike in Merrick or Sunrise Highway in Merrick. So what that did was that caused more people to come because now it drew attention to the fact that people's rights were not being given to them, that they were not allowed to march peacefully like they wanted to. And eventually they marched their way onto the Southern State Highway and shut down traffic. But now the story goes, but look what happened in Merrick. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how people wanted to protest peacefully, but were denied their right, which brought more people into the area that ended up not being exactly how you wanted it to be. Let's stop focusing on the outcome. Let's start talking about the cause. We don't treat cancer by giving you cough drops. We treat it by treating the cancer.
Exactly. Yeah.
We let's stop worrying about the symptoms and let's start going after the causes.
Exactly. And we need to listen to the underprivileged because we, sitting from our privilege, do not understand. Nor should we try
we can't.
Yeah, we cannot.
We can't. I can tell you a story about when I was 14 or 15 years old. I was in a playground basketball court. It was called Grand Central South. It was on the south side of the Grand Central Highway, Grand Central Parkway. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Police officers were getting off the highway, and it was me and my buddy Chris, and I can't remember the other kid's name anymore. I was only friends with him for like 6 months or whatever. Me and Chris still talk. And this is junior high school, so me and Chris were white, by the way, and Dave is not. So the cops get off. They stop. They come down. They demand me and Chris, tell them that he was giving them the middle finger and grabbing his crotch. We refused to because it didn't happen. And even if it did, that's not against the law, by the way. Being rude is not against the law anywhere. And if it was in New York, we'd all be in prison. Everyone in New York is rude. So it's not a law. They took him back to their car and bounced his face off the hood of the car. Took him to jail that night. I mean, he got out an hour or two or whatever. So, but that just proves there was nothing to charge him with. They did it because they could do it. They didn't take me. They didn't take Chris. They took a kid in junior high school. There was only one difference between the three of us. For every time I hear someone say it's not really that big of an issue, I can point to stories in my life where I've seen it be an issue. Not to me. Never to me. But I can tell you about stories that I've personally witnessed where it's an issue.
You know, one thing, I'm just going to get this off my chest, that we need to stop doing now is when we see Black Lives Matter and then you respond with, well, all lives matter. Blue lives matter.
No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. Because until Black Lives Matter, they don't. End of story.
It's the most
I'm sorry to jump on you. I hate that.
I know. I'm like, you are missing the point.
Yeah. And I'll make the point right now. You have a table of 10 people, right? They're all sitting down to dinner. And everybody gets food except for the guy at the end of the table. And the guy at the very end of the table goes, hey, guys, I'm hungry. And everyone looks at that guy and screams at him, we're all hungry. And they just keep eating. Well, he still starves to death. Of course you're all hungry. You're at dinner. But all of you have food. That's not the point. The point is they need help, not you.
Yeah, that is a great analogy.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. You would let someone starve because you want to yell that you're all hungry? Of course you're all hungry, but you have food. It's the guy at the end who doesn't have food. He's the one who needs the potatoes passed to him. When we save the whales, do we say, oh, we don't care about all the fish or dolphins? I mean,
I know. Helping one group does not minimize anyone else. It makes us stronger. It makes us better.
Of course, police lives matter.
Of course.
Of course they do.
Yes.
They're humans. But you notice they don't have a problem saying all. They don't have a problem saying blue. The only problem is the word black in the statement. And that's the problem.
Yes.
I don't even know where to go from there because it really infuriates me that has to be a discussion. On my town page, okay, so if anyone's still listening at this point, if you want to discuss any of this, we can. If you post it on Facebook, I may reference it elsewhere because it's public knowledge you said it. If you private message me, I will never reference anything you say or give a name to anyone, so whatever. And I'm only saying that now because I'm about to point out that in my town, a guy named John decided to get on my town when they posted a march for Black Lives Matter march that's happening in an hour and a half from now that I'm going to. And yes, I'm going to, full disclosure, with my wife and 2 kids. And the first thing is, this needs to come down. It's racist. And my question to John was, what's racist about it? Point to the racist part. If you can point to the racist part, I will delete the post. Because I'm an admin of the page. So that makes more sense. And he just says, oh, you know what makes it racist? I absolutely do not. So I need you to point out what on here is racist. And if you can point to something, I will delete the post. That went on for about 4 hours. I still have not gotten an answer as to what's racist about it. I mean, we know what's racist. He's racist. That's what's racist about it. John is racist. John doesn't like the fact that the word black is being used in his town for Black Lives Matter. We got all the typical, can we have a rally for the cops? Absolutely. Go organize it. I'm not going to organize it, but you more than welcome to. You can, and I remember when, I forget which, there's been so many incidents now in life, but there was retaliations on police officers, and a police officer was sitting in his car and was murdered by somebody after another police brutality case. And, people, if you're upset about police brutality, you can't also be upset about a police being murdered in his cop car. Yes, I can. I have the capacity to not want anyone to die. I absolutely have the capacity to think that death is wrong. Murder is wrong. Period. I think that our society does a lot to bring people to justice who murder police officers, though. So I don't need a rally for that. That's being taken care of. It shouldn't happen. You're right. But we do things to stop people from doing that and to bring people to justice who do that. We need to focus on police brutality and those particular police officers being brought to justice properly.
I agree. Absolutely.
And I get the whole not all are bad. We don't want to lump everything into one, but here's the deal. If police want the trust of all the citizens, they need to start holding their bad apples accountable. They need to. Because I have family members that are police officers. They're very good people. But they'd never turn on another police officer. And now we're back to, if you're willing to not say anything, you're part of the problem. To some degree, you can't deny you're some part of the problem. Because you're worrying about protecting the shield. And finally, we actually see police officers taking a stand against this. We see them kneeling with protesters. And we see them... unfortunately, in New York, we see them then apologizing for that and saying they want to kick their own butt for the police in them wants to kick their own butt for doing it. That's part of the problem, and that's part of the problem. You're not condemning all police officers. That's not what you're doing by agreeing that police brutality shouldn't exist.
Yeah, we're not condemning.
That's how
everyone.
they hijack it.
Yeah.
That's how people hijack it. Oh, well, if you think that that's wrong, then you must not like all police. I got family members who are police. I don't like all of them, but I don't like all my family members. I mean, that has nothing to do with them being police. Just a quick rundown on why we use the other two episodes, since we really didn't reference them here. But in Detained, you see that people are being held against their will. It was really more of a commentary on the Japanese internment camps during World War II. And how, but again, it's how we say that we're doing things for their betterment when we're not listening to what they want. The Suliban don't want to be cooped up because your people can't act right. And that's what essentially was happening here, right? I don't remember the name of the race that's on the planet.
Tandorans.
Thank you. The Suliban were put in detention centers for their own protection because the Tandorans would kill them. They're not arresting the Tandorans that are doing the killing, apparently. Or even if they are, they're not doing it to a degree that would stop it. They're just doing it the other way. For North Star, we see that they have Skagorans, who they use what is clearly meant to be a derogatory racial slur for them. And it even opens with one of them being hung.
Yeah.
And in that episode, 5 seconds later, he says, well, he would have gotten a trial. And and the woman says to the sheriff, I guess he would be, that yeah, but it's the same people who lynched him that would have been on the jury. He goes, yeah, well, even in self-defense, it's a crime for a Skagorian. He doesn't use the word Skagorian. I don't even like using a racial derogatory term from a TV show that doesn't exist. It rhymes with Jags. He would have hung anyway because he can't even defend himself against the human. Now, the way that episode, the one thing I don't like about that episode is what they twist on their head was the Skagorians were once enslaving the humans, which is why the humans overcompensated the other direction. If they would have left that out, it would have made more of a point. But I understand why Star Trek added that into the discussion.
Yeah, that was very confusing to me, and I didn't like it as well.
They kind of gave the humans a way out of why they're the way they are. But again, we once again see that one person kind of is heading in a progressive kind of way, but not nearly far enough, because you could tell that the police chief, the sheriff, he does kind of understand that they're not all the same, but he's not willing to let go of all the cultural beliefs that he has to punish them forever.
Yeah. And one thing that he says, which I put down in my notes, is like, he says, it's not fair. It's just the way it's always been. Having it just the way it's always been is not a good reason to keep on doing it.
Do anything about anything. That's not an excuse for anything. We hear that a lot in society. We hear that about Confederate flags and Confederate monuments, but they've always been there. All right, let's calm down. First off, the Confederacy was like 5 years. It's not that big of a part of the history there. But the Confederacy itself was 5 years of American history. So to then have these statues that are going to last 1,000 years would be ridiculous. But We always hear